Previously at Laura B Studios.
My 9th favorite tokusatsu series is Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger! My 7th favorite tokusatsu show ever is Osama Sentai King Oger! My 3rd favorite tokusatsu show of all time is Resha Sentai Tokyuger! Hi everyone, my name is Laura B, aka Twitter user at YTakitaZes, which you probably already know if you're watching this video. Let's talk about the end of Super Sentai. Even as someone who does think Super Sentai going on a break is a good thing, it still feels incredibly strange to think that we won't be getting more seasons for the foreseeable future. Like many American Henshin hero fans of a certain age, my first exposure to the genre was Power Rangers. There wouldn't be any Power Rangers without Super Sentai, and before I became the Kamen Rider and things nobody's ever heard of guy that you know and probably have some kind of opinion about, I was a teenager who couldn't do our homework and spent nights staying up late and watching it. The first tokusatsu series I ever watched live was Lupin Ranger vs. Bato Ranger. There's plenty of Sentai I haven't seen, and plenty that I still want to watch, but it's always just been there. I've definitely fallen out of Sentai with the Reiwa era for a lot of reasons, but it still feels kind of weird. It's like having a regular customer who you don't always like, but one day they stop showing up and you're like, where'd they go? But at the same time, I believe that nothing is ever truly gone as long as you love it, and I know that Super Sentai is so well loved. I've seen tributes, discussions, goodbye posts. This franchise has touched a lot of people, myself very much included. And even if it's off the air, I know that its legacy and impact on pop culture will never fade. So for this 6th video essay, I decided to pay respect to Sentai in my own way, by telling you, my beloved audience, 5 things I learned from Super Sentai. Why 5 things? Well, we're talking about Sentai here, right? Groups of 5 are kind of what got the franchise going. I'm also working on a much longer script that'll take a lot of time, so that's definitely part of it, but you can't say that it's also not thematically appropriate. So, before we get into said 5 things, let's get our usual ground rules out of the way. Firstly, this video will contain spoilers. Like a lot of them, probably. If I'm going to be mentioning a lesson from a season of Sentai you haven't seen yet and you want to watch it blind, feel free to pause this video, watch it, and form your own opinion before you come back to mine. Secondly, speaking of opinions, these ones are mine. But I am just one guy, and just because this is what I learned doesn't mean that it's what you learned, and that's okay. Just be cool and normal, even if you disagree, and we'll have no problems whatsoever. And if I don't mention a series that you feel strongly about, chances are it's either because I lost it to the void or I just haven't seen it in full yet. Feel free to give me recommendations in the comments, but I don't need, where's insert season here comments either. Thank you. Thirdly, look, the end of Sentai has brought out every opinion in the book, and I'm aware of that, but that's not what we're doing here. This video is a tribute to shows I loved, no more, no less. Please don't bring in any hatred towards people who think Sentai should end, people who don't think Sentai should end, Power Rangers fans, or whatever, I don't know. Let's just have some fun talking about our good friend who's going away for a while, the Super Sentai series. So, with all of that in mind, here are 5 things I learned from Super Sentai.
Number 1.
You know, the way this video is framed, you probably thought that these lessons would be deep or meaningful. And yes, I'm gonna get to those. Of course I'm gonna get to those. I'm me, and damn it, if I can find a deeper meaning in Power Rangers Ninja Steel, I can find a deeper meaning in anything. But if we're gonna talk about things I learned from Super Sentai, then we need to go over the very first lesson that it taught me. And that lesson? This tokusatsu shit fucking rules. Come on, dude, this is awesome! These teams transforming, and fighting, and using cool weapons, and giant robots, is this not the coolest shit ever? Because for some time now, I have thought that this is the coolest shit ever. I love giant robots. Pacific Rim is in my Letterboxd top 4, Neon Genesis Evangelion is one of my favorite anime, and if I was given infinite funds, one of the first 20 or so things I'd do is figure out how feasible it is to build a mecha of my own. There's just something about them that I've always enjoyed, and I can probably trace that enjoyment right back to the first moment that I saw Megazord. And when I started watching Super Sentai, well, I forgot most of it because that's what happens when you watch a bunch of Sentai instead of sleeping or doing your homework as a 17-year-old with undiagnosed ADHD. But still, Seeing the mech fights from seasons that weren't adapted, like Tokyuja or Lupato, is one of my favorite parts of watching said seasons. Some of these designs are just absolutely beautiful. Like, have you seen every King Oger combination? They're gorgeous. And y'all already know how much I love Tokyudayo, my beautiful lance-wielding train mess. Even the seasons I like less, like Boon Boomger, still have some pretty sick mechs regardless. I adore Robo Knight, and BMD and Boondorio themselves always look great. But it's not just the giant robots I love, although I love them. There's just something about color-coded transforming heroes that scratches my brain so well. I love me a red, blue, and yellow trio because primary colors are awesome, and when you throw pink in there, even better. I love me a good Sentai pink. The greens, the golds, the purples, the oranges. Every Sentai season is a rainbow of awesomeness. And as someone who's a known geek about character archetypes and dynamics, I love how many different flavors of these colors I've gotten to meet over the course of watching all these shows. Our fiery reds, our cool blues, our deceptively strong pinks. The thing that really captured me with Sentai, however, and with Tokusatsu in general, is just how earnest it is. I used to be a huge MCU fan, and I still have a place in my heart for a lot of Western superheroes. I never would have gotten into film or into comics in the first place if I'd never watched The Amazing Spider-Man, which I will still defend with my entire life, and stuff like James Gunn's Superman is proof that Western superheroes don't have to be cynical and gloomy. That said, after years of movies full of quips and lampshading, it feels good to watch superhero stuff that isn't ashamed to be what it is. Sentai is lighthearted and silly, yes. It can be goofy as hell at times. The target audience for Sentai is even younger than that of writers, so of course it's gonna have those moments. But those moments don't undercut things when they get serious. My beloved Tokyuger is a more lighthearted season for sure, but when it gets serious at the end, it's because of the fact that we've followed these train kids being silly for so long that when things get real, it hits harder. And if I'd never watched those Sentai seasons, I'd never be moved by them in that way. So the first thing I have to thank Super Sentai for teaching me? Tokusatsu is a genre full of things I love. Giant robots, superheroes who know the power of a good roll call, and those serious moments that hit not in spite of the silliness, but because of it.
Number 2.
Okay, now we get to the serious stuff. If you haven't figured out already that I consider myself a feminist, and that I especially care about how women are treated in fiction, I'll just come out and say it. I consider myself a feminist, and I especially care about how women are treated in fiction. Does Super Sentai always treat its women perfectly? Hard no. No, it does not. But also, having decades worth of teams with female heroes is awesome. Sentai teaches us that it doesn't matter what gender you identify as, how you present yourself, what color you happen to transform into, or if you've got on a skirt or pants. Heroism isn't inherently gendered. I've mentioned before on this channel that Aim is my favorite Gokaiger character, and that episode 41 is one of my favorites, because it shows that Aim isn't important in spite of her feminine traits, she's important because of those traits. Her being the heart of the team is what keeps it together. Or my daughter Kagura. She has the strongest imagination out of all the Tokyugers, to the point that she almost drowned about it once. Sayo from Kira Major is a straight-up surgeon, a trait that I always admire in my tokusatsu heroes, and a profession that's insanely difficult in general. Kasumi from Ninninger holds most of the team's brain cells and wants to meet aliens, which, as an alien, I want to meet her too. And the way Hoka from Maji Ranger seems all flighty and boy-crazy, but actually that's just a side effect of the fact that her heart is full of love. Sentai pinks are sometimes pretty feminine, sure, but that doesn't mean they're not awesome heroes. And it's not just the pinks who kick all kinds of ass, far from it. Goseiger's complete fall-off aside, Sumino was a really cool and capable detective in addition to being our one and only female Black Ranger. Senna from Kira Major isn't our first female Green Ranger, with that honor going to Mito Ninja, but I loved watching how tough she is, along with her softer side coming out in episodes like 37. Fuka from Ninninger also has one of my favorite moments in the whole series when she goes back in time and remembers that she wanted to become a ninja. That scene where she gives her classmate the coolest lift to school of all time is also one of my favorites. And the yellows? Oh, I love female Sentai yellows. I love them. Mio from Tokyuger has one of my favorite storylines ever because I'm weak to father and daughter content. Umika from Lupato is the entire reason I started watching Tokusatsu live, and my tough girlies like Luca from Gokaiger or even Jasmine from Deca Ranger are icons for a reason. Of course, like many girl-shaped Sentai fans, I always dreamed that someday we'd get a proper female Red Ranger. This didn't pan out, and now it's even less likely that we'll get one, and that sucks. But we do, however, have Miss Shiba Kaoru. Back in the day, A lot of Power Rangers fans that were looking to get into the source material were told to just watch Shinkenger, and I'm one such Power Rangers fan. I don't love how Kaoru's story was handled. I get why in universe she stepped down, but also, from a Doyleist perspective, way to introduce a really capable woman and then immediately demote her and have her sit out of the final battle, Kobayashi Yasuko. Still, though, at least we have one. On a technicality. I'd also like to give a special shout out to the Chief Justice of Gokan, Rita Kaniska. Especially as someone who presents pretty damn femininely, but is in fact non-binary, having a character whose gender identity is only disrespected once by a villain they're actively trying to trick is just... This kicks ass! This is awesome! And look, even when they're all done up in their idol gear, guess what? Rita is still, in fact, non-binary. Which is something I know, being an idol myself, but still, that's something that's really important to note. It's just insanely cool to think about kids growing up and having a non-binary hero to look up to. However you identify, Sentai has someone that you can see yourself in. And that's important for kids regardless of gender especially. It helps them understand that helping others and being a hero isn't exclusively a male profession, and to treat people of other genders as equals. And considering the fact that Sentai has aired for some time now next to a show where female heroes aren't even a given, let alone ones with relevancy and well-written storylines. Well, at least the Sentai watching kids will be alright.
Number 3.
One thing I find incredibly interesting about humanity as a whole is that no two people are alike. Me, I know what I'm like to some degree, and I also know that there's no person on Earth who's exactly like me. Everyone is different, and a lot of the time, those differences cause fear and hatred and anger, which I don't like. But if there's one thing I can most definitely say that Sentai teaches us and exemplifies with every single season, our differences are meant to be celebrated, not used as an excuse to discriminate or bully. Everyone has their good points and their bad ones, and by working with people who are different than you, you'll probably get a better result because it's likely that your strengths and weaknesses will cover for each other. My good friend Jeremy Spiders really spells it out in King Oger's finale. How we look, act, and feel, these are the ways that everyone differs. Uniformity would only make things boring. We accept the parts of each other that we like, and we respect the ones we don't. We don't need to be one and the same to live side by side. The King Ogers are a team of wildly different people with wildly different nationalities, personalities, backgrounds, and general outlooks on life, but that doesn't make them unable to work together. Rather, that's exactly what makes them able to maximize their joint slay. I really think that, out of all the Sentai I've seen, King Oger really epitomizes that message. And there's no Sentai team who does consist of 6 identical clones. A lot of the time, they don't even have the same jobs. Sure, this causes all kinds of inter-team arguments. I call Yaki and Kinji from Ninninger the Revolutionary War for a reason. Shun from Mega Ranger barely wants anything to do with Kenta at first, and you can just feel the annoyance and jealousy that Ishido has towards anyone who interacts with Taya ever, hilariously. But conflict in itself isn't a bad thing. You need to be able to work through your problems with other people and see things from their perspective if you want to grow. Every example I just said proves this. Yaki and Kinji bond after sharing their insecurities about living up to Takaharu. Shun does accept Kenta as a friend after Kenta protects him from the Rhino Nejire. And Ishido is at least enough of a professional, or he's down bad enough for Taya that he can at least bring himself to work with everyone else for his sake. Another good example of this comes from the Deca Rangers. Ban and Hoji bicker so much, but as anyone who watched Deca Ranger can tell you, even if you don't ship them romantically, their growth from guys who don't really get along that well to absolutely 100% partners is so satisfying. That scene in episode 26, where Ban about Hoji says his real talent is how hard he works, even before we get to the late game "you're the best partner for me" stuff, that scene really stuck with me, because it's proof of how Ban and Hoji have come in the course of half a year. Despite their differences and disagreements, of which there are many, they still know each other's good points and can praise them just like that. Or look at Wright and Hikari from Tokyo. Hikari's imagination is the weakest out of the Tokyo team. Even though he's certainly a child, meaning he has more imagination than most adults by default, he just has less of it than the others, and as a result, he can sometimes get annoyed by Wright's more unrealistic imaginings. But to quote Hikari's gay-ass character song that is gay, Hikari is the one who illuminates the present, while Wright is the one who illuminates the future. They're both necessary for the team despite that gap. In the end, though, Sentai shows us with every single team that groups of different people coming together is what saves the day, and occasionally the entire world. Meeting, learning from, and befriending people with experiences, personalities, and worldviews different from your own is what makes you and them stronger. There will be problems, and not everyone can get along with everyone 100% of the time. But when you learn to accept and celebrate what makes you and other people different from each other, you'll be imagining victory in no time.
Number 4.
Although I'm mostly a writer girly, which means more often than not I watch shows that follow maybe a maximum of 4 superheroes on average, there's something that Sentai always has that writer, for the most part, doesn't. Superheroes who, from the very beginning, are working as a team. I mean, it's baked into the name. The Japanese word Sentai literally translates to squadron, and you can't really have a squadron with one person. And this little piece of linguistics trivia leads us to the 4th lesson I learned from Super Sentai. Teamwork is, in fact, what makes the dream work. Nobody can save the world on their own. This is because the world is huge, and saving it requires a lot of effort that one person just can't do solo. But as a team, a lot of possibilities open up, and saving the world is most definitely one of them. One of my favorite moments in ToQger, in the same way that Gaim has my favorite final battle or Doomsday is my favorite episode of Doctor Who's Series 2, is near the end, when Wright's kicked everyone else off the rainbow line. His light is what Zed wants, and to keep his friends safe he has to go it alone. Except when Wright does go it alone, he can't imagine victory, let alone actually win. The other ToQgers coming back to him, and the 5 of them working as a team, is what actually makes imagining victory possible. Another moment I really love that shows this is in my favorite episodes of Boom Boomger, Sakito's intro 3-parter. The team mobilizing to protect Sakito's old friend from the Hashilians while Sakito and Taya are busy having their heated drama between men is just so satisfying to watch, you know? What's more is that immediately after this happens, Yundi mentions that he probably couldn't have saved that many people if he'd been on his own. It's really no wonder that right after that moment, Sakito decides to join the team. To the extent that the writers let him join the team anyway. Not that I'm bitter. Or like, check out episode 17 of Kingoger. For a quick context refresher, Rackles' peace talks with the Bugnarok didn't go so well, so he decides to invade and Kosoba about it. My president and yours, Yamagast, decides to evacuate his country and face Big Rax himself, which he pulls off and awesomely. But he would not have been able to pull it off without help from Rita, Himeno, and Shiokata, and he would have 100% gotten himself killed if Gira hadn't swooped in to save him. There are a lot of things that make Kingoger a very unique season of Super Sentai, and it's true that, especially in the first quarter and change, the Kingogers aren't really a team. That's what makes it so satisfying, however, to see Yanma asking for help, and what makes me scream at my TV in red-blue hell when Gira realizes that Yanma plans to stand up to Rakles alone. Now, it's highly unlikely that anyone in Sentai's target audience has to save the world or deal with complex geopolitical relations, but that doesn't mean that these lessons about teamwork aren't important. It's a lot easier to do, say, a group project in a school setting if you know how to work with other people, and when you're an adult with a job, you kind of have to know how to do things as a team. I've worked in food service since I was 18 years old, and there have been times when I've had to do shifts or parts of shifts alone, and let me tell you, it sucks. It's terrible. Top 10 worst experiences that happen. Like, I'll be by myself in the kitchen of the hot wing joint that I work at right now, right? And it always starts slow. It'll be like an online order for 10 wings, that's nothing. Online order for a 20 and fry, sure, fun. And then they just keep coming and coming and coming. And I'll get like a DoorDash with like 15 million sides, and we only have 4 sides fryers, so I have to like time when I'm gonna drop the mushrooms versus the sweet potato tots. And then the doorbell rings, and I have to go take care of those customers, and people eating in have a tendency to order a lot of food because they're gonna be here for a while and they're gonna be talking, right? And so that's huge orders that I have to deal with. And then the phone rings, have to answer it in 3 rings no matter what. And if there's somebody at the counter that I have to like serve, then I have to put them on hold, but also, extremely difficult task for somebody who has ADHD, like, I have to remember to get the phone after I put them on hold. And it's harder than you think. And a lot of the times people will hang up and call again and complain, and it's like, I'm sorry, and it sucks. And then more people will come in, we'll get like an Uber Eats, we'll get a DoorDash, we'll get another DoorDash, and then someone orders a wrap. And it's like, There is a Chipotle in walking distance, and there is also a Qdoba in walking distance, so I don't know why you feel the need to get this wrap at a hot wing joint, because they're gonna have way better stuff at places that, have tortilla-based foods that they serve regularly. So why would you go here? You can walk to Chipotle or Qdoba, or the really good local taco place that's right next door. Sorry, please be nice to your food service workers. This job is extremely difficult and stressful. The point is, when I'm not stranded solo in a kitchen or behind a counter, and I've got all of my crew back there with me, we work as a team, and as a result, we're efficient as hell. Or think of what goes into making a movie. Writers, directors, actors, composers, CGI artists. You can absolutely make a feature film alone, but it's much easier with other people. Super Sentai's very premise, down to the second word in its title, puts this idea in the heads of the children watching so that when they grow up, they know exactly how powerful people can be when they work together.
Number 5.
When I think about the fact that Super Sentai has lasted for 50 teams and more years than most people I talk to regularly have been alive, the last thing I'd like to say it taught me becomes pretty obvious. After all, in order to keep a franchise going for so long, you need a lot of ideas, and when said franchise is built around having ensemble casts, you're gonna need to have a lot of different kinds of characters. Not every Sentai team member is nice. Not every Sentai member is in their fights willingly. They have all kinds of different professions, from guy who can't keep a job no matter how hard he tries, to magician ninja, to space pirate, to child. But it's precisely because of that our last lesson is so clear. It doesn't matter who you are, what you're like, what you do for a living, or what your background is. The only thing you have to do to be a hero is to choose to do the right thing and to help people. It's not like the Mega Rangers chose to defend their world from invasion. With the base under attack, the best Dr. Kubota could do was recruit 5 teenagers who happened to be there. And after their identities are exposed and the general public decides to turn on them for no good reason, they struggle with the hate they're getting. But does that stop them from saving the world? Nope. The Lupin Rangers just wanted to save the people they love, and in the end, the people they love, who mind you have been away from normal society for an entire year, make the choice to help them in turn. The Go-Kaigers are also a really strong example of this. We've got a divorced pirate captain, a dude who was on the wrong side until said divorced pirate captain started flirting with him, a thief, a princess, a Sentai fanboy, and Doc. And they're all literally pirates. They spend most of the series working in their own self-interest. But when push comes to shove, they, along with all the other Sentai Rangers from seasons past, choose heroism and choose to give the Ranger keys back to their original owners. Seasons like Ninninger, Kiramager, or even Gozyuger, where the team consists of people with all kinds of professions, prove that there's really no job requirement here. Sure, if you've dedicated your whole life to training for something, yeah, that's super valid too. Discipline is important, and ninjas are awesome, so I'm never gonna complain about a good martial arts-based season. At the same time, however, following your passion and doing what you love can take a lot of forms, but none of those forms disqualify you from doing the right thing. Machi Ranger is also a Sentai series I love, and it's unique because of the fact that it's about siblings. Now, not every character from Machi Ranger's end goal is to do this whole magic thing. Makito wants to go to Brazil for farm purposes, Tsubasa ends up as a magic teacher in England for some reason, and Hoka's got her modeling job. Urara ends up staying in Magitopia with Hikaru, sure, and Kai ends up as the world's most baby ambassador there, but that's not where he starts. He's just a kid who wants to keep his family together. During the series, though, the Ozu siblings might have their own goals, but to make a future where they can pursue said goals, they need to fight for good in the present. It's not always easy, but it's worth it in the end. Or look at the Tokyogers. They are children. They imagine themselves in adult bodies, of course, but they're still children at the end of the day. I often think about just how terrifying their circumstances are, how they can't remember or find their home, how they're faced with monsters every week. The Tokyogers are sort of like an archetype I outlined in my last video, the just a little guy variant of primary writers. These kids are so imaginative and so brave even at their young age. If literal children can choose to free towns from darkness and help people, then anyone can. So no matter who you are, if you want to be like the Super Sentai heroes that you love, that starts with a choice that you can make. You can help people. There's no requirement or exam you have to pass to do so. All you have to do is look inside yourself and think, I want to make the choice to help someone today, and then do it. Tip extra at your coffee shop. help an old person cross the street, get involved in your local community. There's probably a lot more going on than you'd realize if you are not looking, and there are always opportunities to volunteer or donate or organize. Being the change you wish to see in the world means being it, and that can be hard, but that first step, it's not as hard to take as you might think.
In conclusion,
So, usually, I start my conclusions sections with someone hypothetically asking why I made this video, but since I already did that, let's talk about the future. As I said before, I really do think Sentai going on break is a net positive. There wouldn't be Kuga if Rider hadn't taken a break. There wouldn't be Ginga if Ultraman hadn't taken a break. And maybe a decade from now, there'll be a brand new Sentai season that redefines the franchise, just like those two shows did for their respective franchises. And I really, really hope I'm around to see that happen. That said, the hiatus needs to happen first. Any studio would be creatively dry after writing year-long shows consistently for 50 teams straight, and it's pretty clear from how messy and disorganized Gozooger ended up being that there needs to be some serious changes in how these shows are produced, too. A hiatus means there's time for Toei to find new screenwriters, directors, and concept designers, as well as giving Toei the chance to make their sets safer for the actors and actresses involved, and that's exactly what I want to see. Don't get me wrong. I love me some Kobayashi Yasuko. I'll defend Shimoyama Kento's work with my whole heart, and though Gov was a huge disappointment, I think Komura Junko can cook when she's given the opportunity to do so. I also will always wish that Takano Minato was given the chance to do more at Toei after King Oger, because to me, King Oger's the strongest Sentai of the Reiwa era with ease. Outsourcing and getting a shonen manga author was super, super clever of them, and I hope that whenever Sentai returns, they pull something similar. I just also think that in the future, Sentai is probably going to be written by some genius that none of us have ever heard of, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, you may be thinking, Laura, you sound really sure that Sentai is going to come back someday. And to that, I would reply that yes I do, because I can't really envision it being gone forever. I'm really excited to see what Project Red brings to the table in the coming years, and I've really been enjoying Galvan Infinity because Setsuna is there, and my god, they packed so much lore bait into that robot samurai. But at the same time, maybe it won't be in the format that we're used to. Maybe it'll be stuck as a web series, or just occasional movies or specials, or whatever form of media that's going to be hip with the kids in 15 years. But as long as people love Super Sentai, as long as passionate Sentai fans exist, as long as people remember, discuss, and create fanworks for it, it's not gone. I mean, it's officially been on hiatus for a couple months now, and here I am in May making a video about it, right? Even if something goes terribly wrong and Sentai doesn't return in my lifetime, that doesn't mean it's really dead, because I will always hold a place in my heart for it. And there are so many other people that hold even bigger places in their heart for it than I have. Like I said, I've certainly drifted away from Sentai, and there isn't anything wrong with that either. But no matter how far away I go from it, it's still what got me into tokusatsu, and I'll always be grateful for that. If that hadn't happened, I would have way less to make videos about, and more importantly, I wouldn't have met some of my most precious friends. So, here's to Super Sentai. Here's to tokusatsu. Here's to people of any and all genders, celebrating each other's differences, working together, and the people from all walks of life who choose to be heroes. Here's to 50 teams, be they the ones that everyone talks about or the ones that time has forgotten from making up its history. And here's to all of us Sentai fans keeping on, so that when our color-coded heroes in spandex and their beautiful big robots return, we'll be right there to greet them. Alright, here we are. We have made it to the end of the video, much faster than usual because this video is very short. I knew I wanted to do something related to Sentai for a video this year as soon as I heard the hiatus announcement, but I didn't want to just jump on the trend right away. I wanted to make something that only I could make, something that I could be proud of making, and that's how I landed on this video that is very short, and at least short by my standards. I'm sure that all of you guys are happy that, a Laura B video that's not an hour long is in your description box, but that's not the point. The point is, so my schedule for the rest of this year is going to look a little bit weird. I have a long-form video essay planned to release in early September. I'm going to be spending my entire summer working on it, and when it's out, I'm sure you'll realize why it took me that long, but that is probably going to be my last long-form video for this year. However, This does not mean it's only going to be covers uploaded from here on out, but I'm going to need your help. A while ago, I did an interest check for a Q&A, and people said that they would send me questions if I did, open up that kind of forum, so I will probably be posting a Q&A video over the summer as long as I get questions, so if there's something that you are dying to ask me, about my process, about tokusatsu, about, coffee shop trips that I've done, if you have a question, you can find a Google form in the description below. And of course, I will be uploading a birthday cover in June, probably a cover in August as well, and covers for all the other months of the year that I don't upload something long form, because that's what I do. So, if you liked this video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, but feel no pressure to do so. In the description below, you can find a link to my link tray that's going to have everywhere you can find me online, including my shirt store. I do, in fact, have a lot of Sentai designs up, so if you like one of those, you can feel free to cop it. It also has my Buy Me a Coffee, so if for whatever reason you want to give me $5, you have the absolute ability to do so. And that is all for me this time. I will see you next month on my birthday with my birthday cover. Please send me some questions that you want to know from me. Bye-bye. Here's to us. Here's to love. Isn't that a song? Secondly, speaking... God, how hard this shit is. But, fuck. What fuck? What a fuck. I use like a teleprompter, right, for these videos, and my screen just went dark. Sentai has aired for some time now. This to the fourth lesson learned for Sentai team member Fa. You'll probably get two fucking henshins. That's pretty sick if you do that. So before we get these 5, it's highly unlikely that... Just gonna wait for these noises outside to stop distracting me. I was afraid that I wouldn't have enough bloopers because I'm talking less because this video is shorter, but I should not have had that much confidence. Kamen Rider Revice. What, you guys thought I would go a whole video without mentioning it?